Okay, so now we're centered. So I'm gonna put my 3 pieces of clay. Remember, I'm gonna place them first, and then I'm gonna try to push them down, or at least hold the plate. You don't wanna move the plate as you push them down, okay? So I'm gonna push those down. And then the first thing that you wanna do is shape how you want the outside. So you wanna make sure that you kind of know how much clay you have to work with, how much thickness you have to work with. Hopefully you left yourself enough. So I'm gonna start with the outside and kind of get it how I want. So if you didn't really like the shape of the bottom, if you have enough clay, you can kind of reshape that a little bit. Just be aware of how much clay you have. And then also remember, you should be getting these snakes. If you're not getting the snakes, if it's kind of sticking back on, your clay's probably not quite hard enough. And so in that case, I would heat gun the bottom a little bit before you move on. Okay, so once you get the bottom shape how you want it, then I'm gonna start actually trimming my foot. So first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of decide where I want my foot to be. So I'm gonna put a line and then decide how thick I want it to be. So that's where my foot's gonna be. And I'm gonna trim down a little bit here. And then blend that into the plate. Okay. And then I'm gonna start trimming in on this side. Just be careful of this part of the ribbon tool that you're not hitting down into your foot. So I'm gonna make my moat right next to my foot, and then I can put the ribbon tool more flat. Just remember that you don't go past center. So I'm shaving off layers, going in and out, making sure that I don't ever go past center or you'll take a chunk out. Okay, and remember we want to cut in enough that we could glaze this center area and it wouldn't hit the kiln. But obviously you don't want to cut out the bottom. So again, just be aware before you put your plate down how much clay or how much thickness you have to work with. And then I did put that little sponge underneath, which hopefully will help a little bit as well. Okay. And for the plate, because it's a larger surface area, you can use a slightly larger ribbon tool. And really, the more surface area on the ribbon tool that you can get, the better, because you'll get a more even surface and it'll be easier to trim. Okay, so once you've trimmed as much as you want to, I'm just gonna take a wet sponge over it. A wet pinky right next to my foot to make sure that I've got a nice defined angle there. You also want to make sure that your foot is nice and flat so that it's actually gonna sit flat on a table. Okay. And you're just gonna smooth everything out. Do any last minute shaping. Okay. Take a look at it, make sure you like it, make sure everything is where you want it to be. Remember, once you move it, it'll be nearly impossible to get it back in the same spot. I'm gonna turn off my wheel. Once you know that, yes, this is great, this is where I wanna be, make sure that you don't pick it up. Again, the more that you potentially move it and maybe warp it, the more chances that it could crack, or you're like kind of forming a weak spot that is then gonna crack. So we really don't wanna pick up plates very much because you could kind of bend them. So I'm gonna clean off my initial bat, and then just like I did to get it this way, I'm gonna sandwich it, flip it, okay, and then take that sponge. Make sure that it didn't dip in. Fix that if you need to. If you need to take a wet sponge over the lip, you can do that. And then you're just gonna wanna let it sit there and let it dry before you move it again, okay? So we wanna try not to pick it up and move it around very much. There you go.